Next slide, please, Joni. So welcome again to our third session of the Motivational Interviewing for Behavioral Health Providers. And this is session 3, Putting It All Together in the Continuum of Change. This webinar is sponsored by the Northeast and Caribbean Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, or MHTTC, and we're housed at Rutgers in the School of Health Professions in the Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions. My name is Katia Rivera, and I'm the project coordinator of the center, and we'll be introducing the webinar today. Next slide. The MHTTC is funded by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and to enhance the capacity of the behavioral health workforce and to deliver evidence-based and promising practices to individuals with mental health conditions. We offer training programs in evidence-based practices for serious mental health conditions, wellness and recovery, school mental health, Hispanic and Latinx mental health education, and online education courses. Next slide, please. As a reminder, all of our training programs, products, and services are available to you at no cost. And if you're interested in staying up to date with the events and products the Northeast and Caribbean MHTTC is providing, please sign up to receive our email communications. You can sign up at the bit.ly link provided on the screen. Following this webinar, you'll be asked to complete a brief survey. We value this feedback and use it to improve our activities and inform future activities. The surveys are also important because our continued funding is linked to the completion of them. So we thank you in advance for your participation. Again, we want to remind you that this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website within 7 days of this webinar broadcast. Also, we will pause the recording during our breakout rooms. And if there's any more discussion that's more sensitive in nature. Next slide, please. At the time of this presentation, Marian Delphin Rittman served as Acting Assistant Secretary for Mental Health and Substance Use at SAMHSA. The opinions expressed herein are the views of the speakers and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services or SAMHSA. No official support or endorsement of DHHS or SAMHSA for the opinions described in this presentation is intended or should be inferred. We encourage you to interact with our presenter during the webinar by using the chat feature. You may also raise your hand and I will unmute your mic. But as a reminder, this webinar will be recorded. Next slide. The MHTTC network is committed to using affirming, respectful, and recovery-oriented language in all of its activities. Next slide, please. And as a reminder, we would like to share with you our 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline for people who are experiencing suicidal ideation, mental health and substance use crisis, emotional distress, or people concerned about someone in crisis. We have with us, again, Ms. Joni Dolce. Joni is an assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions at the Rutgers School of Health Professions. Joni has several years of experience working in behavioral healthcare settings, namely supported employment. Joni teaches courses in the department's undergraduate program, as well as provide training and technical assistance to behavioral healthcare providers. Her research interests include staff training and employment services. She presents nationally on the topic of employment services and is listed as a Society of Human Resource Management recommended speaker on the topic of creating workplaces that support mental health. Welcome again, and I will turn it over now to Joni.
Thank you, Kati. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started right away. We have a jam-packed 2 hours, and as in previous sessions, if you were able to attend, we will take about a 5-minute break at the hour, and then we'll resume. So we have Module 5 and Module 6. In the previous module, we introduced ORs, open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries, and the foundational skills of these technical aspects of MI. During this module, we'll continue to build on ORs, and we'll focus on complex reflections and summaries, and we'll also spend some time practicing and putting together all of the skills that we're learning today. We're also going to spend some time in Module 6 talking about the continuum of change and using these skills that we're learning today and what we reviewed last week in helping to support someone in whatever continuum of change they might be in. So why don't we get started? So to start, let's talk a little more about what we covered in Module 4. In that module, we identified the difference between open and closed-ended questions. We reviewed how to use open-ended questions, help elicit change talk from the person making the change. We practiced using simple reflections, and we generated behaviorally specific affirmations. As a brief reminder, open-ended questions are designed to get more than a brief one-word response. And they're a strategy used in evoking information from the person about their change and their motivation for that change. Simple reflections, as you may recall, included repetition, which really repeats back what the person said using their words, and rephrasing, which repeats the content of what the person said, but using your own words. Affirmations are a special type of reflection and are used to identify and comment on a person's strengths. Affirmations help to build confidence in the person regarding their abilities, and also to help build your relationship and alliance. Affirmations are not just compliments. As you recall, they focus on specific behaviors, particularly those related to the target behavior, meaning the target behavior of change. So you can use the chat. We have a fairly large group, so Kati will be managing the chat. So what was the most important thing that you took away from Module 4 if you attended last week? So think about what the most important aspect of Module 4 was that you took away, and also as a follow-up to that, how did your work with participants change based on what you learned in Module 4? Looks like there might be some coming in through the chat now, Kati. We'll just spend a minute or two.
Sure. We have using reflection to evoke change.
Using reflection to evoke change from the person, absolutely. Anything else?
Using more open-ended questions to get more information. Individuals need to be ready to make a change plan. Open-ended questions versus closed.
So lots of open-ended question use, reflecting back.
Meeting them where they are.
Meeting the person where they are, absolutely. At the end of the previous module, you were asked to practice using open-ended questions, affirmations, and simple reflections with someone. Specifically, you were asked to start a conversation with an open-ended question, keep the conversation moving by using simple reflections and affirmations, use at least 2 open-ended questions, 3 to 4 reflections, and 1 affirmation. And then after your discussion with the person, we wanted to know, the person that you practiced with, we wanted to hear what their feedback was. Were they able to give you some feedback about how they felt during the exchange? And then also, how did you feel during the exchange? How did you feel practicing the skills of open-ended questions, affirmations, and simple reflections? Would anyone like to share their experience? If you were able to practice, maybe we can have a volunteer to talk about what was your overall experience like practicing the skills. How did it feel during the conversation? How did you feel during the conversation? What were some of the challenges that you may have encountered during the conversation? How did the person you were meeting with respond?
Someone shared to make sure that they use open-ended questions, using authentic affirmations, using language to identify where individuals are in the process of change.
So that idea of an authentic affirmation, so not just throwing a compliment for the sake of throwing a compliment, but noticing something that the person is doing that's positive and commenting on that. Maybe a show of support, thank you for meeting with me, and so on. Any other volunteers want to talk about their experience?
It says that it was sometimes hard for them to answer their questions, even though it was about what they want and needed.
So some challenges related to maybe asking the questions. The person that you were meeting with may have had some difficulty responding. I'm interested in that situation. What was the outcome? What did you possibly do to help elicit that information? So you asked the open-ended question. Did you follow it up with a reflection or another open-ended question or maybe an affirmation?
They shared that he felt reflecting back sounded like a therapy or technique.
Okay, so the reflection may have seemed therapeutic or sounded therapeutic, and that's fair. That's a fair criticism or observation. A lot of times this does take practice. It takes practice for it to sound natural. Eventually, we introduced those stems, sounds like, it seems as though, but those are kind of starting points. And as you develop your style, as you develop the skill, you can begin to sound more natural and speak it in a way that is natural to you and doesn't feel like you're coming off in a very therapeutic tone, if that's what the person in the chat is referencing. So we're going to get moving into this session. We're going to discuss and distinguish the different types of complex reflections, building on the simple reflections that we discussed in the last module. We're also going to describe the different types of summaries. And then finally, we're going to spend some time practicing using the complex reflections, summaries, and all the OR skills together. So a complex reflection, this is a good depiction of the iceberg. Kind of the simple reflection is that kind of little tip at the top that we're reflecting back, more rephrasing what the person is saying. The complex reflection, as this depicts, goes much deeper. Complex reflections go beyond just what the person has said and can help shift the way that they're seeing things. They can make connections that they hadn't previously made, or it can offer them a new perspective. In the last module, we were introduced to and had the opportunity to really think about some of the simple reflections, and the simple reflections serve a purpose. They serve that purpose of reflecting back to the person what they've said using either their words or your own fresh words. Complex reflections go beyond just repeating back to the person what they have said. And they allow you to address maybe those unspoken or implicit messages that are communicated by the person. Using complex reflections, we can provide an interpretation, make a connection between messages, maybe test the hypothesis about what you think might be going on for the person, or offer a new perspective. The difference between simple and complex reflections has been compared to this picture of an iceberg. We're trying to get below the surface and what is meant below kind of that surface area. The several types of complex reflections. We're going to be talking about content reflections today, feeling reflections, meaning reflections, double-sided and amplified reflections. And we're going to discuss these in more detail. Content reflections, so reflecting content, are the most basic of the complex responses. When you reflect content, you're just reflecting back the essence of what has been shared using your own words. You do this to convey to the person that you're listening. You might confirm or clarify your understanding, and it's also used to encourage the person to continue speaking and provide more information about the situation or just more information regarding their change. With content responses, You're focused on the ideas that are being shared. You're not addressing the emotions or feelings being conveyed. So I'm going to read a content reflection, and I'd like you to respond using the chat. If you want to verbally respond, you can unmute your mic, and Kati will, you could raise your hand and Kati will unmute your mic. So let's think about, see how many different ways people might respond. So the first one listed here, I don't understand why my mom, 1 minute she tells me to live close to home, and the next she says, live wherever you want. So someone making a change is coming to you and making this statement. What would be a content reflection? You can use the chat or raise your hand, and Kati will unmute your mic. Anything in the chat, Kati?
Yes, someone wrote, your mom is giving you mixed messages.
Yes.
It seems like it makes it difficult to understand your mom because she's telling you to move away and stay close.
And we want to keep, we want to keep our reflections brief. We want to, just as a reminder from our previous session, we don't want our statement to be any longer than what the person is giving us. And that takes some practice as well. But yes, I think both of those. Kati, any more in there?
Yes, it sounds like there's a double message.
Yep. Your mom gives you conflicting messages is another example. I really want to start applying for jobs, but there are so many things I need to do to get my resume ready. So someone who's in the middle of a job search or thinking about work makes this statement. How would you respond using a content reflection?
Please share in the chat if you can.
I really want to start applying for jobs, but there are so many things I need to do to get my resume ready.
It sounds like there are many things you can do before you can apply. You're finding starting difficult. It sounds like there's a lot to get done.
Applying for jobs is a multi-step process. So you're reflecting back the content, but in your own fresh words. And then finally, I've been thinking about attending a support group. So I looked up some that are available in my neighborhood. What would be a sample reflection reflecting content?
Seems like you're looking up support groups in your neighborhood.
You took steps towards going to a support group.
So you're preparing for attending support group.
Feeling reflections convey a deeper understanding of not only what the person is telling you, but also the emotion connected to their words, their body language, their tone of voice. For example, you may be able to see that someone is upset by their facial expression, by their posture, or maybe other nonverbal cues. When reflecting feeling, you want to identify the emotion that the person is feeling. And once you identify that emotion, you can then test it by making a feeling reflection, such as you feel, and then insert the feeling word, such as happy, angry, frustrated, upset, worried, scared, elated, etc. You can also use alternative phrases for reflecting feelings, such as that makes you feel, or it's got you feeling a certain way. So you can say, just very briefly, you feel angry, or you can say that makes you feel upset, or it's got you feeling excited. You can gauge the intensity of the feeling and focus on what those emotions are. And maybe, for example, happy might be one intense feeling. of maybe medium intensity. Maybe satisfied would be maybe a lower level of intensity for that word. Elated would be high intensity. So you can really think about what not only the emotion that the person is exhibiting or saying, but also what that intensity might be, and try to gauge that intensity. So we're going to practice this as well. So the person states, I've been waiting for over a year to enroll in college and I can't wait. What would be an example feeling reflection?
Sounds like you're excited to get started. Sounds like you're excited to start college. You
Mhm.
cannot wait to enroll. That's
Yep,
what's being shared in the chat. I hear excitement in your voice.
You feel excited. How about, I can't do anything right as far as my teachers are concerned. They return my assignments because they say they're sloppy and incomplete. Any feeling response for that example?
So these people are typing. It
An
seems
example?
like
Yeah.
seems like you are feeling a sense of anxiety. That's what I'm reading. That's going a little fast. I hear you frustrated. It sounds like you're frustrated about responses that you're receiving from your professors about your assignments. You're feeling that your teachers are critical of your work. You're feeling frustrated with the reactions of your teachers. Thank you, everyone.
Yep, the frustration is the emotion, discouraged. That makes you feel discouraged. You really want to try to nail down what that emotion is. Some coworkers invited me to a party this weekend, but I don't know if I should mix work and fun. So if someone comes to you and they might have that statement, how would you respond? With a feeling. So think about the emotion. What emotion might they be exhibiting or describing?
Sense that you're feeling reluctant.
Reluctance. You feel reluctant.
Sounds like you're feeling hesitant.
You feel hesitant about going. You feel apprehensive about going. So you're trying to really identify what that feeling is and reflect that back to the person. Anything else in there, Kati, before we move on?
Sounds like you're worried about crossing boundaries. Sounds
Yep,
like
you
you're
feel
worried about mixing relationships. You're feeling concerned about making a decision.
So concern, worry, those emotions and feelings that you're reflecting back to the person. Meaning reflections build on the content and feeling reflections that we just reviewed and allow for a fuller understanding of the person's experience. When reflecting meaning, let me see, sorry about that. When reflecting meaning by using a feeling word and also content, so we're mixing the two. You want to reflect the content and the feeling in the same reflection. So this really prompts the person to go to a deeper level of meaning about the change. So you're not just reflecting back what they're telling you, you're reflecting back both what their emotion is and also what that content is. So be mindful of body language, posture, facial expressions. The person may have some incongruence with what they're telling you and how they feel. So you want to be paying attention to that. A meaning reflection might sound something like, you feel anxious because you're starting a new semester at college, or so we're going to practice a little bit. You're reflecting back the feeling. So if you can kind of get that formula, you feel because that's a way to remember. But again, as the person in the chat noted, you want to find your own style, find your own way of reflecting so that you're not feeling like it's coming off as just like a, therapy jargon. So let's look at these three, and if you can reflect back meaning. My mom has been asking me to do my job this past month, but now she says that she doesn't have, my mom has been taking me to my job this past month, but now she says she doesn't have time to drop me off every morning. How would you reflect meaning back to this person? You can use the chat.
Someone shared, it sounds like you're feeling like your mom is not making you a priority because she is not able to take you to your job.
Yeah, and you want to remember to identify that feeling. This person seems to feel upset about this, right? It's not a happy feeling. So maybe you feel upset because your mom won't drive you to work. It could be brief, but that reflection back to the person lets them know you're listening. They can correct you and say, well, no, I'm not really upset. I'm more disappointed, or whatever that feeling might be, but it gets them thinking about how that emotion may be tied to the meaning, and gives that broader understanding. So the second one, I went to visit my sister today in the hospital. We had a great visit. When I went to give her a hug goodbye, she looked at my eyes and started smiling, then crying. I think my stopping by made her happy. Alicia, your hand is raised. I don't know, Kati, if you wanted to unmute Alicia's mic.
Alicia, you should be able to unmute.
Or you can continue using the chat.
It was Doretha.
Oh,
Hi, Doretha.
hi, Doretha.
Sorry, I can't keep up in the chat because I can't see.
No, it's a big group, and it's a lot. So are you reflecting back the first statement or the second one? I went to visit my sister today in the hospital. We had a great visit. When I went to give her a hug goodbye, she looked in my eyes and started smiling, then crying. I think my stopping by made her happy. What would be a reflection of meaning for that, Doretha?
Oh, I'm sorry, my jaws keep talking. So I'm sorry, I was really trying to, because I went slow. I was trying to do the first one. So
Yeah, go ahead, do the
maybe
first one
somebody
too.
else.
That's fine. I'm talking very quickly to try to get this all in, so I apologize. Yes, do the first one.
Thank you, Dr. Mother.
Yeah.
I was just saying that you feel you sound. I use sound. It's okay to use sound because
You sound, but you can also say you feel. You can really make that hypothesis, test that hypothesis. You feel this certain way.
Okay, so I was saying something like you feel kind of aggravated or angry because your mother no longer can take you anymore. Would you care to share more about that?
Yes. Yep. And you're following that up with an open-ended question. Excellent example.
Okay, that's it.
Yes, thank you. Work has been extremely hectic this week. I don't think I'll ever be able to catch up. I'm sure no one on this call has had that statement or had that thought. How would you reflect meaning back?
We have, you feel stressed and frustrated that you see an end in sight, that you don't see an end in sight.
Yeah. You feel stressed, frustrated, you feel overwhelmed because your job requires a lot from you right now. So it looks like we have 2 participants with their hands raised.
Ivis, you're able to speak if you can. Your microphone should be enabled.
I'm getting that you're feeling frustrated and overwhelmed. Can you tell me more about that?
Mhm. Yeah, and you can even just clip that a little bit more and just say you feel frustrated and overwhelmed. Can you tell me more about that? I know that seems uncomfortable at first to really just tell a person how they're feeling, but it provides that you're testing it, and then they can come back and say, well, no, not exactly frustrated, or that they'll give you some additional information to work with. But yes, I think what you just said, Ivis, is right on. Anyone else?
In the chat, we have, you feel frustrated because you can't get your work done.
And then that encourages the person to maybe give you some more information. You're not asking question after question, but you're reflecting it back in a way that the person then responds, yeah, I'm frustrated. I don't know why they're piling work on me. I don't know why, I see my other coworkers and they don't seem to be as busy as me. You're not asking the question, but you're reflecting back in a way to encourage them to continue talking. So we'll move on to our double-sided and amplified. Double-sided reflection attempts to capture and highlight both sides of the person's ambivalence about the change. This type of reflection allows you to demonstrate that you understand the person is ambivalent or uncertain about the change, and they're in this double bind. It means that double bind really is defined as the person sees both the pros and the cons of changing and not changing. And you're helping to highlight this by reflecting back both sides of their experience. Double-sided reflections often take the form of, on the one hand, and you insert one side of the ambivalence, and on the other hand, insert the other side of the ambivalence. You don't want to use and, you want to make sure you use and not but. When reflecting back both sides, the use of and kind of gives equal value, weight to both sides of that reflection. So on one hand, you're excited about going back to college, and on the other hand, there's some fear about starting something new after this many years. So you're kind of helping the person see both sides of their ambivalence. So let's do our practice again. I really need a job to pay off my student loans before I get too far behind, but I know I'll just end up quitting or getting fired like all of my past jobs. What would be an example of a double-sided reflection for this statement? Use the chat or unmute. I really need a job to pay off my student loans before I get too far behind, but I know I'll just end up quitting or getting fired like all of my past jobs.
Someone shares, sounds like you feel afraid and unsure about trying again. On the one hand, you want to pay off your student loans by getting a job, and on the other hand, you're concerned you will get fired or quit like in the past.
Yep. So you're helping that person see both sides of that. On the one hand, you want to find work because you need the money, and on the other hand, you're afraid to try because it might not work out. So you're helping them see that. I'm really looking forward to retiring next year. I have some things lined up, like a little traveling and watching my grandson. But what else am I going to do all day?
People are still sharing. On the other example, it sounds like you're motivated to work to pay off your debts, and on the other hand, you're afraid you are not able to maintain a job.
So excited, wanting, the interest in paying off the debts, but also fear. You're reflecting both of those sides of the ambivalence. you're excited about retiring and you're not sure you're going to do, and you're not sure what you're going to do with your free time. So excitement about retiring and uncertainty about, or concern, or, fears about having too much free time. I'm not sure I can quit drinking and still settle down and relax in the evenings after a long day. I just feel so bad now every morning after I drink.
If folks are still sharing on the other example, on the one hand, you want to enjoy your time with your family. On the other hand, you want to feel purpose in your life.
Mhm.
On the one hand, you want to quit, and on the other hand, you want to drink. I
Mhm.
hear you want to quit drinking on the one hand, and on the other hand, it feels hard to cope without drinking.
Yeah. Ivis has her hand raised, Kati.
I guess I enabled your
There,
mic.
am I unmuted?
Yes,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes, okay. On one hand, you need to drink to feel relaxed. And on the other hand, you would like to quit.
Yes. Yep. You help the person see both sides of that. On the one hand, drinking helps you unwind after work. And on the other hand, you're starting to see the physical toll that it's taking on you. Thank you. Now let's move into our amplified, and then amplified reflections emphasize the conflicting thoughts a person might have about the change they want to make. When you use an amplified reflection, you prompt the person to reevaluate what they said in light of the overstated idea you choose to highlight and amplify for them, and it can encourage them to argue for the opposite of what they originally said. You're intentionally reflecting what the person said in maybe an exaggerated manner, or amplified way. This should be done in a very genuine way, without too much exaggeration, so it doesn't appear as too extreme or even sarcastic. You can use an amplified reflection to over or underestimate the point. The amplification helps the person see the other side of their ambivalence and can be a helpful response to sustained talk. So if someone's exhibiting sustained talk, using this type of amplified reflection can be a useful tool. An example of an amplified reflection is maybe the statement is, my doctor says I need to go on a diet, but what does he know? The reflection might be, your health isn't impacted at all by your eating habits. So you're amplifying for the person to see, and maybe they'll say, well, I guess I'm, not as active as I want to, or I guess I don't feel as great after I eat a lot of sugar. So let's do our thing again. My parents keep getting on me to go back to school and finish my degree, but I'm not going to do it just because they say so.
Mhm.
So an example, go ahead. So an example might be, your parents are the only reason, or, you don't want to reflect it up like a question, but your parents are the only reason you would want to go to college. So you're amplifying that to the person, and they may respond with, well, no, I want to go too. They're not really the only reason why I'm thinking about college. So you're helping them to really clarify that change and maybe their own motivation for that change.
So people are sharing, so your parents are the only reason you return to school, or sounds like education is not that crucial. You have No interest in returning back to school.
Yeah, the person's surely not saying they have no interest, but you're amplifying it to almost exaggerate that point so that they can respond back with their own reasons. And at this point in your relationship building with the person, you probably have a hunch that they are interested in returning to school, that it's not just their parents. So you're kind of testing that hypothesis with this amplified reflection. I can't help, and we'll move on to the next one. I can't help thinking that once I get married, my life will finally be perfect. Any examples for that?
It sounds like getting married. Oop. Chat is going quite fast.
Thank you, Kati.
It sounds like getting married would make your life perfect.
So you're kind of exaggerating that point to help
Perfect.
them think about it.
Perfection is waiting for you after marriage. So life is perfect after marriage.
Yeah.
What do you consider perfect? What is your idea of a perfect life?
Yeah, the only thing that will make your life better is to marry someone. And again, you're exaggerating that for the person to make a response. So we're going to look at and watch, follow up on the recording from last week, but we're going to watch our counselor and helper and helpee have an exchange. And as we watched the video, we saw last week that the two exchanged some simple reflections, or the counselor used some simple reflections. This time we're going to listen to the complex reflections that the counselor is using. The counselor is Anthony. We'll play the video from the beginning so you can still hear some of those simple reflections, but continue to listen for the complex reflections. And as you view the video, consider the following, and we'll review it as a group. So, oh, not that. What were the complex reflections that you heard Anthony use when talking with the helpee? What was the helpee's response when Anthony reflected back? So kind of paying attention, what are those complex reflections and what was the person's response? So Patty, if you could play the recording, that would be great. I'll stop sharing, or you can just start sharing.
Kati and I have been meeting for the past few months to discuss her interests in going back to school after being laid off from her job. Good morning, Kati. I know when we met last week, we were talking a little bit more about your decision to go back to school. So can you tell me a little bit more about your progress on that?
Well, I've been having some problems getting in touch with the person who's in charge of admissions at the school that I'm interested in.
It's been difficult trying to contact the school.
Yes, I can't seem to locate the email of the person, and the website is so disorganized, it's hard to find anything on it.
It's been hard to find information that you need.
Yes, I can't remember the person's full name, and it's making me incredibly frustrated. I don't even want to keep looking.
You want to stop looking for this information?
Yes, I want to stop looking because I'm feeling so upset and disappointed that I can't find what I need. They're just so disorganized.
You're feeling discouraged because you can't find this information.
Yes, I'm starting to think that maybe I'm just not cut out for this school.
You feel defeated.
Not necessarily defeated, just questioning my decision to attend this school. They're terrible and I'm just over it.
It sounds like such a chaotic situation, Kati. You don't even see yourself being there anymore.
No, that's not it. I know they really have a great reputation for the arts, and that's just been my passion for so long.
It's a good school and it matches your interests.
Yes, it's a great school, and they have highly skilled faculty in their photography department. I would never be able to find a school with so many top artists in their field. That's why I wanted to go there in the first place.
Kati, you're excited about this possible opportunity, and you're a little frustrated with their lack of organization.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Kati. I know when we met last week,
Okay, so what were the complex reflections that you heard Anthony use?
Someone sharing his last statement.
And what was that an example of? I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, you feel excited about the prospect of going to school and frustrated about the disorganization of the college, or about how disorganized the college was. So he said, you feel, and also this other way. What is that an example of?
So someone is sharing in the chat that it's double-sided.
Mhm. And how did the helpee respond? And then what were some of the other complex reflections?
Well, they're sharing in the chat that that's right. She agreed.
So she affirmed what he said, acknowledged that that's correct, validated. That was what she was feeling. He also said, you feel defeated at one point, so a feeling reflection. You feel discouraged, I heard him say. Anything else?
Yes, they're sharing in the chat that you feel defeated. That was pretty much one of the statements, or offering other many different reflections.
So we're going to spend about maybe 5 to 6, 7 minutes in breakout rooms practicing using reflections in combination. So I'll put this in the chat, but also think about, or you can take a picture of it. Think about what you would like your life to look like 5 years from now. Identify the speaker and the listener. So those others in the group might be observers. The listener will ask open-ended questions and provide reflections on this topic of what the speaker wants their life to look like in 5 years. The listener may need to use open-ended questions, simple reflections, and affirmations before offering a complex reflection. Try to incorporate as many types of the complex reflections as possible. And then, try to get to maybe it won't be possible today to have 4 or 5 complex reflections, but after a couple, switch as many times as you can. Probably only have a chance to really see 1 or maybe 2 people modeling this or role playing it in your breakout sessions, but the others, please kind of observe what they're using, write down what complex reflections you're hearing, kind of note how the other person, the speaker, is responding to the listener. The listener is kind of the role of counselor, let's say, and the speaker is the person making the change. Let's say, just that makes it a little clearer. So, Kati, if the person is feeling ambivalent or 2 ways about changing, speak to both sides of the uncertainty in the summary, like in a double-sided reflection. So, for example, on one hand, and then on the other hand, so you're kind of using that double-sided reflection. You want to highlight any change talk that you heard. So, for example, you mentioned a few reasons why you might want to make this change, including, wanting to feel better, wanting to physically feel more fit, whatever that might be, and then invite the person to correct any errors in your understanding or anything you might have missed. Be careful to use open-ended questions here. You don't want to just say, have I missed anything? The person, it's not really inviting them to talk. You're not really eliciting anymore. Maybe you say something like, what else would you add? Or what have I missed? So we have a recording here, a video about different types of summaries. So as we watch the video, we're going to look at summaries, the collecting, linking, and drawing together summaries. I'd like you to listen. Ken is the counselor and Dawn is the person making a change. Again, all of these are fictitious, made up scenarios, but for this purpose, Ken is the counselor, Dawn is making the change. What types of summaries are you hearing Ken use when he's talking with Dawn? When did he use the summaries? If you can kind of write that down or think about it. Why do you think he chose to use a particular summary when he did? And what other listening skills did you observe Ken during the exchange? Kathy's going to bring up the video and we're going to really listen for what types of summaries did you hear Ken use?
I've been working with Dawn for a little over a year now. She was initially referred to me by a local hospital where she was admitted for 3 weeks, following an incident where she walked off her last job and made threatening statements to her supervisor. She started a new job, and today we're going to talk about how that's going for her so far. So Dawn, how are things going with the new job?
It's going okay. I have some really awesome coworkers, but my immediate supervisor is always on me. It doesn't seem like I could do anything right.
So things are going pretty well with your coworkers and less well with your supervisor.
Yeah, he keeps correcting everything I do. After we meet, after we have meetings, he tells me I was monopolizing all the time in the room, not letting anybody talk. And I don't think that I'm doing any of those things. He's just being mean to me.
It sounds like you have some doubts about what your supervisor is telling you about how you're acting.
Well, I'm just trying to contribute to the conversation, that's all. I mean, I have really good ideas. All my ideas are really good ones. It's his loss if he doesn't want to hear any of them. But my mom is also telling me that I'm not letting people speak when I come home to visit family. I don't know.
So your supervisor and your mom are both telling you that you're being more talkative now.
Yeah, I don't know why they're being so inconsiderate. I mean, maybe I'm just talking a little bit more than usual, but I have all this energy and a lot of really important things to say.
This sounds a bit like when we were talking about this when you stopped your medication last year.
Well, I didn't want to mention it because I knew you would say something about it, about me stopping my medication, but I was just feeling so lethargic and blah on it. Yeah, I stopped taking it. I just felt so awful. I know that it helps me with my nervous talking and my energy, but I can manage without it.
So on one hand, the medication makes you feel less energetic and more blah, but at the same time, you acknowledge that it helps you with your being very talkative.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's helped me in the past, but right now things are going really, really well. My fiance and I are getting along better. The wedding plans are moving on track. Hitting the gym a lot and really working out, more exercise than ever. So I'm feeling so good right now. My life is great except for my boss and my mom just like getting on my back and saying that I think I know more than everybody else and that I'm, better than everybody else. I'm not doing that. I can't help it if I'm really smart and have a lot to offer, maybe know more than other people.
So before we move on, let me summarize what we've gone over so far and to see if I've missed anything. It sounds like you're doing okay at your new job, better with your coworkers and not quite as good with your supervisor. And that your supervisor and your mother have both noticed that you're becoming very talkative and that's becoming a bit of a problem. You mentioned that you stopped taking your medication and you feel much more energetic since then and you've got a lot of good things going on in your life. And on the other hand, this issue of possibly feeling like you're better than other people or feeling superior to other people might be becoming a problem as well. What have I missed?
I think you pretty much summed it up.
So did you hear any summaries that Ken used? And again, we're just making, these are fictitious scenarios and we are just giving a snippet of time. So, this may not reflect, a 30-minute session that you might have with someone or a relationship you've built over a number of weeks. But what summaries did you hear Ken use when talking with Dawn?
So in the chat, they're sharing linking boss to mother's observations.
Yep. So linking some of the mother and boss comments. What else?
After 2 complex reflections, he summarized hitting all the major points.
So he asked, let me see if I get this straight, or, he kind of attempt to summarize and also use the double-sided reflection as a summary. On the one hand, the medication makes you feel less energetic, and on the other hand, it also helps you stay focused. Great. Thank you for that participation. So to respect the time, we have another video to watch of all of the skills combined. I think it's an important one for you to see. And then we're going to go into our continuum of change module. And then at the end of that, we're going to kind of use the skills that we've developed, whether it's in a breakout room or just kind of a back and forth discussion. But I do want us to listen to the ORs and watch this with all of the skills combined. And these will be resources you can have beyond today's training. So as we're watching the video, what types of ORs did you notice Anthony use when speaking with the counselee? When did he use a specific OR skill? So maybe if you can identify the statement and the skill he used, and maybe some other listening skills. So as you're going through, listen for the open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and the summaries. Go ahead, Kati. Thank you.
Kati's been seeing me for the last few months. She was referred by her general practitioner to talk about her depression. Good afternoon, Kati. It's nice to see you today.
Hi, it's nice to see you too.
So when you were here last, we were talking a little bit more about your side effects to your medication. Can you tell me how you're feeling now?
Yeah, I'm feeling okay, just a little out of it and sleepy. The medication seems strong.
You feel groggy because of your medication.
Yes, a little bit like I'm in a fog.
Kati, can you tell me, what does foggy feel like to you?
I don't know. I guess I just feel worn out and my mind isn't as clear and I'm having trouble concentrating.
The medication's affecting your thinking.
It affects my thinking and my sleep. I never used to sleep after 6 a.m. and now I'm waking up after 8:30.
You're sleeping a lot later in the morning.
Yes, and I'm late for work a lot these days. My boss has been okay so far with my lateness, but I know he will eventually get frustrated with my being late.
Your boss is being really supportive so far.
Mm-hmm. So far he has, but who knows what he's thinking and planning to do. He does know a little bit about my depression because I've had to take a leave last year. I don't know. I'm still considering stopping the medication because of the sleepiness and feeling out of it.
So, Kati, it sounds like you've been really taking your time and giving some careful consideration to this decision. What do you think it would be like to stop taking your medication?
Well, I've stopped in the past and it wasn't such a great idea. I was in a very dark place, and then I even had to go to the ER. But I'm better now and I feel like my depression's under control.
So you feel less depressed now, and you recognize that stopping your medication in the past hasn't always been the best choice.
For the most part, yes. I feel less depressed. My family and I have been getting along a lot better. Although the other day my brother got really angry with me for sleeping in because he was having friends over and wanted me to clean up.
You've been having some trouble at home as well as at school because of your sleeping. Tell me a little bit more about what's been going on with your brother.
Well, he got mad because it was late in the afternoon and I was still asleep. And had left all of my laundry unfolded. So instead of just staying in bed or yelling at him, I just got up and nicely gathered my laundry.
You know, Kati, you handled yourself really well in that situation, maintaining and just staying calm.
Yes, I guess I did. He and I got along the rest of the day.
So before we move on, let me just make sure I'm clear on what you've said so far. Your medication has been making you sleepier than usual, and this has been a problem with your work and at home, and you're also a little bit happier and more upbeat.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just to remind everyone, these are all fictitious scenarios, actors acting out these roles. What are some of the open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, or summaries that you heard Anthony use? You can use the chat or unmute your mics. Anything yet in the chat, Kati?
So people are entering their information now. Open-ended questions. Do you feel okay now? Can you tell me about how the medication is making you feel?
Can you tell me about how the medication is making you feel? Yep, open-ended question. I heard him say, sounds like you've been giving this some careful thought. What would you like to do next?
What does foggy feel like?
What does foggy feel like?
Helping reflect when she was off her medication.
Mm-hmm.
Summary included a double-sided reflection about improved mood but too much sleep.
Yes, yep. And before we move on, let me make sure I'm clear on what you have said so far. So summarizing, absolutely. So again, this is a teaser training. Use these recordings, use the materials, dig into it a little bit deeper. But we're going to move on, and we're going to move into our module 6, which is putting it all together in the continuum of change. We're going to focus on bringing everything kind of that we've discussed so far and connect motivational interviewing to the continuum of change for people that people often experience. So we've discussed MI and how that's connected to supporting change. Now we'll talk about how to put those into practice in the context of the continuum of change. So we're going to continue and build on what we've learned so far by adding the concept of the continuum of change and how it plays a role in the change process. What we're talking about today, right now, in this last half of the training, isn't necessarily or explicitly motivational interviewing, but connects with the MI processes and can help to identify strategies to support people to move forward in their change. So we're going to talk about the elements of the continuum of change, describe the connection between that continuum and MI, demonstrate how to support someone in the change process based on place and continuum, and then also kind of synthesize the spirit, processes, and skills of MI. So we're going to bring the last 5.5 hours together in this remaining time that we have together. You may have heard about the stages of change that were originally developed by Prochaska and Di Clemente in the late 70s when they were studying how to help people who wanted to quit smoking. The stages of change model has been found to be effective and a good tool in understanding how people move through change in a behavior. Describes the dimensions of the change process, and strategies for working with people in different stages of the change. So we're going to move in and talk about each of these stages. And we have videos, not surprising. We have videos for each of these aspects of change. So while the aspects of the continuum of change may be easy to understand conceptually, right? They can be a bit more complicated to identify when you're having a conversation with someone who's making a change. So to illustrate each aspect, we're going to listen to a few brief videos of what someone might sound like when they're at different places along the continuum of change. And then we'll have a discussion about that specific stage of change. So as Kati is playing this recording, I want you to listen for what did you hear that clues you in that this person is in pre-contemplation? What are examples from your work of things that people have said that suggest they're in pre-contemplation? So
So I know you really care about me and you think I haven't been acting very well lately, but I'm fine. I just have not been able to sleep lately because my neighbors have been very loud and they're keeping me awake. I don't need to take my medication. What I need to do is to move out of this apartment, get away from my neighbors so that I can get some sleep, that everything will be fine. I blame this all on them.
So pre-contemplation, we heard, what did we hear? So when we think about the pre-contemplation stage, I don't have a problem. I don't have any real reason to change. The person has no perceived need for change. They may be thinking that it's maybe the other person's problem. There are other people. So when we listened to this person talk, what were some of the clues to suggest that they were in pre-contemplation?
Blaming others.
Blaming others. Yep. They have the problem. It's not me. There was no perceived need for change, right? I don't need to change. I don't have a problem. So as we listen to the next video on contemplation, we want to listen for a person who is making the change might be ambivalent about that change. they're thinking about the change, but they may not have been, they're not in the preparation stage yet, but they're considering the change, they're thinking about it, they may have some ambivalence or reluctance. So let's look at the contemplation video to hear what someone sounds like potentially in a contemplative stage of change.
I know I said that I was thinking about getting my driver's license, but the other day I was thinking about it and started to feel a panic attack coming on. I just get really nervous about getting behind the wheel again, even though I know that driving is going to help me get a job. I really do want a job. I could get my own apartment, I could feel more independent, but I bet my insurance is going to cost a lot because of that accident, and I'm not really sure if my credit is good enough to get a car.
So what did you hear the person discussing? What that makes you think that they're in that, I want to change, but what were some clues? Worried about being behind the wheel again. Yep. Stated was thinking about how it would benefit them by getting a car. Yes. So you saw that side of the benefit of the ambivalence. Getting a new job. I want a job, but my insurance will go up. Getting a new job. Yeah. Signs for independence. Mentions interest in driving to get a new job. I want to, but panic attack. Yeah. So all of those statements. So let's look at someone in preparation and thinking about someone. What you want to be looking for is the individual's preparing to, or making steps, or they're getting motivated to make a change. Kathy's going to show the preparation.
I was able to get all my bills in order and have created a budget. Now I am ready to go to the bank to open a couple of different savings accounts so I can finally save up enough money to go to college. I can't believe I put this off for years, but I know saving money would make me feel more confident in the decision I made to go to college, because I do not want all those student loans. I guess the next thing I need to do is to fill out that financial aid document and see how much money I would get from the school.
Again, what types of clues do you hear that person in the preparation stage? What are you hearing them saying? Created a budget, ready to go to the bank. Next thing she needs to do is this, making plans, preparing, got bills in order. So she's preparing for that, getting ready. Absolutely. Action stage, we're going to look at next. The individual has begun to take steps towards making the change, or is currently making the change. Kati, if you want to show that brief video.
I've been prepping my meals every week, healthy meals, and I've been trying to walk 3 times a day every day. It's been really tough, but I don't even know if it's helping. I mean, I have lost 5 pounds, so I guess it is helping.
Okay, so what were clues that she's in the action stage? What were some things that were said to clue you in? Sorry. eating healthier, walking 3 times daily. She's doing it, right? She's actively working on, she's feeling healthy, mentions that she thinks it's working. So she's actually doing it. She's already lost some weight, which was something that was part of her goal plan. Absolutely. So let's look at maintenance and what that might look like. The individuals maintaining the change, they've already, they're maybe working, or they've already begun the change process and they're maintaining the change. Let's see what that sounds like.
Oh my gosh, I am so stressed out. I keep getting all these bills, and I'm not sure how I'm going to pay them. I know I haven't smoked a cigarette in over a year, but I really want one. I even went to the store to buy a pack today. But on the way there, I thought about the deep breathing that helped me quit, and I practiced for about 15 minutes. When I got to the store, I felt a little better, and I bought my favorite protein drink instead. I know it's been a while, and I know I can do this, but it's still so difficult some days.
So again, what did you hear that clued you in that she was in the maintenance stage? What were some things that she said that made you think, yes, that's what maintenance is? Used an intervention to not relapse. Yep, used the tool and intervention that she had to not, she did deep breathing instead, deep breathing. Used the strategies that she developed to keep her in that maintenance stage, to keep the change, to not smoke, right there. Great. So we're going to move on to looking at, let's see. Move into, sorry for the quick. So we're going to look at some vignettes, maybe just a couple of these. We won't go through all of them, and you can provide some feedback. So we're going to ask for a volunteer to help us out. Oh, I'm sorry, my cat is literally right. I apologize, he's distracting. We're going to look at a couple of these, and you can identify where this person might be on the continuum of change and what that information is that kind of leads you to think that, and also what are some motivational strategies that you could use to support this person in making the change. So Isaiah has recently been fired from his job, and he's very angry about it. He worked for a number of years, and he feels that he was terminated for no cause. He blames his coworkers for his termination from the job and several jobs before this one. He does not want to work on his resume or provide any information about his previous employment. He's not open to talking about his history of getting terminated and the behaviors that may have contributed to his getting fired. What stage do you think Isaiah might be in the continuum of change?
All microphones have been disabled if you'd like to share, but we have some answers. It says pre-contemplation in the chat.
Pre-contemplation. What information indicated this to you? What were some things about his, we'll go back to it, his story that indicated he was in pre-contemplation?
Not taking any responsibility, feelings of anger.
Maybe others are to blame, not taking responsibility. So what are some motivational strategies to use with Isaiah? What do you think could be helpful in assisting Isaiah in this pre-contemplation stage of change? moving him into more maybe contemplation or action stage. Maybe we want to focus on building the therapeutic relationship, spend some time establishing trust, asking open-ended questions, right? And listening to his responses and reflecting back, using reflections and affirmations, all of what we've already learned to better understand his perspective, maybe help him examine the discrepancies between his perception of the problem and maybe other feedback or input he's received. But, that's really best only after you've developed a relationship and trust has been built. So we're going to move on and kind of save these. You can review these when you're at your leisure. But I want to spend some time summarizing and also spend some time, getting your feedback. But we're wrapping up this final module. Understanding the continuum of change allows you to kind of assess somewhat where the person falls on that continuum, so you can match interventions and supports to them to move forward in their change process. It's also important to recognize that people can be in different stages related to different behaviors, and therefore we might need to assess the continuum of change for each behavior. So as people and the environment changes, there is a need for continued awareness. And remember, if we move faster or don't take the time to really listen to the person, we may not be adequately supporting the change process. So let's see. Before we move forward, I do want us to just maybe spend a minute looking at maybe a couple more examples. I didn't realize we're coming up to the end so quickly. I thought we were behind time, but we're actually really good on time. So Nia, so let's refocus on the continuum of change. Nia has been thinking about losing weight. She's been losing and gaining the same 20 pounds for the last 5 years. She's begun talking with her support worker about going back to the gym. She's had a gym membership, but consistently finds reasons not to go. She's either too tired, too busy, or she has no way of getting there. However, she's been cooking healthier meals lately. So what is her focus or goal for change? So if we can kind of think about when we met a couple weeks ago, kind of that focus, that target behavior. What is her focus or goal for change?
All microphones have been disabled. If you'd like to, have been enabled, sorry. So you should be able to unmute your microphone if you'd like. In the chat, we have weight loss, losing weight.
Yeah. And where on the continuum of change do you think Nia is? And what information indicated that to you?
We still see losing weight and maintaining the loss.
Yeah. And what motivational strategies could you use to support Nia in making this change?
Eating healthy, making healthy meals, preparation for gym, action and diet.
Yeah. Regarding the gym, it seems like Nia is somewhere between contemplation and preparation, right? She has a gym membership, which suggests she's at least in preparation. However, consistent reasoning to not go to the gym suggests she may be closer to contemplation. In terms of motivational strategies, we might need to recognize that each of those target behaviors, going to the gym and losing weight. So for going to the gym and exercising, you want to focus on strengthening her internal motivation to change. You can do this by evoking change talk, eliciting statements of intent and commitment to make the change, asking about any barriers or obstacles that might be getting in the way, asking Nia what has worked in the past, since this is something she has previously had success with. This could help also strengthen the change plan, kind of knowing what has helped in the past for her to be successful. In terms of her target of eating healthier meals, we recognize that she's in maybe action, right? She's been consistently cooking healthier meals, and you want to continue to support the person in the action stage. Maybe help her identify some potential future challenges that might develop and what her plans are to cope with them in advance to avoid relapse. And you can also affirm and reinforce the progress that she's made. So we are going to summarize, and Tati and I were talking with our director about maybe extending this series and adding another maybe hour or 2 hour session, or maybe 2 1-hour sessions that's completely devoted to practicing the skills. You know, we had a very large response. We didn't cap it intentionally so that more people would be able to attend. It was very interactive with the chat and responding with some of the reflections and open-ended questions, and kind of got you thinking about that. But motivational interviewing is best when you can practice it. And this, large group of people, very difficult to really practice. So we were wondering what your interest is, and we'll send out an email and maybe some follow-up, questions regarding time and how long and availability. If we were to hold maybe another 1 hour, another, or 2 1-hour trainings or opportunities where we can bring maybe some other staff in to help facilitate, multiple rooms, so that we can really get in there and practice using some of the skills and putting it all together, reinforcing some of the concepts. So just maybe in the chat, if you could identify what your interest might be in that could help us initially get a better sense of when we might be holding it. And ideally, it would be within the next couple of weeks to kind of capitalize on what you've already learned, but maybe you can kind of look at